Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, another episode of our Raw Reactions match reaction show after Arsenal have won their fifth Premier League game in a row with a 2-0 victory over Leicester City. Absolutely buzzing with that performance. I say performance, it wasn't like world beating, it wasn't the greatest performance of all time. It was enough. It was what we needed, is what we wanted. Comfortable. I think we did go up against a Leicester side that, we were quite fortunate that they weren't really on it, even though we kind of gave them a bit of leash during the game. But I don't really care because some of the football that we played was fantastic. Some of the football was utterly excellent. And I'm very, very happy that we managed to come through with flying colours. In our match reaction shows, we love to get your thoughts, your feelings, your theories and queries and questions into the chat box. So if you do have any kind of feeling, any kind of comment that you'd like to make, we're going to be reading plenty of those out. So make sure you leave a comment and make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Come on, you Gooner, says David. Very much so indeed, mate. Evening, Marcus. Hope you're doing good. Jamie says that was a massive 3 points indeed. Harvey says, evening all, nice win tonight. Ashwin says, Arteta is proving me wrong and I'm loving every moment of it. Trevor, good evening to you, mate. Hope you're doing good. Marky says, some people are warming that humble pie. Damn pots. Sophie, get that pie in the oven because it's going to taste so sweet. I love you both, but lovely stuff. Shaheen as well, got my eye on you tomorrow, the Arsenal Lounge, 8 o'clock. There's a lot to be said. Alpha says, evening all. Oh, what a night. Got to be loving this run, and each minute of that passes, we get closer. Come on, you Gooners. Good evening, Sean. Hope you're doing well, mate. Getting so close there, Zeus. Michael, hey Tom, enjoyed that one from Kentucky. Thanks for joining us, mate. Rob Paul, excellent result, guys, and a clean sheet to boot. I thought we controlled most of the game. I mean, despite the fact that I thought we gave Leicester a little bit of leash during the game, I thought we did kind of, I always use that kind of analogy of a bully in a playground, like holding a smaller person by their forehead. You're like holding them at arm's length and they're kind of just swinging their arms and they're not really doing anything at all. That's kind of how it felt a bit. We just held Leicester away and they never really threatened at all. Marcus says Partey nearly had a hat-trick. Handball and a crossbar stopped him. Should he start up front? It was great to see him score. He can seemingly only score headers from corners. That is what we've seen. And we did say 1-0 with the Partey being the TGT prediction. Not quite there. We do need that goal from outside the box, and he was very, very close indeed. Very, very close. We're getting a little bit closer to what we want to see. Let's get those party time emojis going in the chat box. I know I still need to make the Odegaard emoji. I'm sorry. I still need to I still need to sort that out. So I will try my hardest to get sorted on that tomorrow. I've got another day off tomorrow, so fingers crossed I'll be able to do it. Let's get those party time emojis in the chat box, and members, get them in there. JDB says, my feeling is a certain number 17 is way too lambasted by his Arsenal section, and people should definitely give him credit where it's due. He gave stability that led to KT going forwards. Look, Cedric, I think we know what he's capable of. We know what his restrictions are. We know what he can and cannot do. And over the last 5 games, he's been solid for us. He's been very, very solid. And Cedric deserves credit. I mean, members, you've got access to a Cedric emoji, believe it or not. And look, I think that he's certainly a player that has proven people wrong in a sense that, a lot of us were thinking when Tomiyasu was out, we were in big, big trouble. And he's proven that wrong. We haven't been in big, big trouble at all. We've coped very well in Tomiyasu's absence. Don't get me wrong. I think Tomiyasu coming back is going to be a big boost to the rest of our season. But Cedric being there, I think he's doing a very, very decent job, and I'm very happy. And I'm really glad that he's kind of also bedded into that new role that Mikel Arteta wants from the right back, which is not to always bomb forwards and to remain disciplined and remain in position. Look, okay, I can't put it off any longer, guys. Martin Odegaard. I do this every single time we do a match reaction show. But Martin Odegaard is just so brilliant. So brilliant. You can't have enough superlatives to describe what he does. The touches, the passes, the timing, the dribbling, the confidence, the dummies, the chances that he creates. I think, what was the actual statistic for how many passes into the final third? I can't remember it exactly. It came up on the end of the feed. But he played a ridiculous amount of passes into the final third. I think 6 passes into the box. I think he created 5 chances in the first half. He's just so good. So good. And he's proven a lot of people wrong. I think we all know that. And look, James Maddison was invisible. Was absolutely invisible. Like, he played a couple of passes across the pitch, and beyond that was absolutely invisible. And yes, he's playing in an opposition team that aren't on the ball as much. Saying that, I thought Leicester had loads of the ball. Loads and loads of the ball. And Maddison didn't really offer anything. Whereas I think if you'd have swapped them over, I think Odegaard would have done a lot better than what Maddison offered Leicester today. That's for sure. We'll get to your super chat in a second, Kai, because I want to move on to that conversation in just a sec. But before we do, Harvey, Odegaard got eyes in the neck. That's a weird expression. Back of his head, I think, is the better way to put it, Harvey. Eyes in the neck. What's that? I've never heard that before in my life. Chris, excuse my French, because I'm going to read this out. But Odegaard is one silky-toed bastard. So smooth. Manu says, Odegaard is magic. Omar says, you asked me about Arteta 2 weeks back, Tom. My answer is I'm very close to backing him again. Good to see that, Omar. Absolutely. 6 chances created in the whole game. Arsenal Granny Emo is so silky. Taz, class from Odegaard. O'Malley says, if that chip pass to Laka would have come off, I would have lost my mind. It's probably the the PC way of putting that, to be fair. I think you can go a lot further with describing how you would properly feel. Henrik says, Martin is silky on the ball. Alex says, Martin, the maestro. Odegaard, says he, Tom. And Iron Cub says, some of us wanted Odegaard over Buendia and Maddison since the beginning. Yeah, that was me. Oh, yeah, I definitely didn't want Emi Buendia. I didn't want him anywhere near Arsenal. Did not want him. And anyone who tells you different is lying. Anyone who puts a video up of me as photoshopped it, like, it's just not true. It just didn't happen. It's as simple as that. Kai, thank you so much for the super chat, mate. Kai says, Cal, I've completely misread your own super chat. Cal Hagen, sorry, mate. Who would you rather start on the left, Smith Rowe or Martinelli? Keep it up, my guy. Love the channel and your takes. You probably love it a little bit less now I've called you the wrong name. But it's a really hard question. I thought Martinelli is a player that the thing about Martinelli is that he has phases in games. I don't ever look at him as someone who dominates a game. I don't think he's like full tilt for the 90 minutes and he's like an absolute threat all the time. But there are these little gems of brilliance from Martinelli throughout the game, whereas Smith Rowe is actually a little bit similar, but he's stylistically very different. And what I think we get from Martinelli is that Tierney isn't as effective. And the amount of times you saw Tierney inside, is that, I mean, I'm hoping you guys noticed this as well, is that Tierney he wasn't very wide. Martinelli's very, very wide when he plays. And Tierney actually, gets closer to the 16-yard box than Martinelli does sometimes. And the difference with that and Smith Rowe is that Smith Rowe plays more like a number 10 or like an inverted 10. And so Tierney has a lot more opportunities to overlap. So they're very different. But I don't think, Cal, that we'd need to necessarily choose outright. I think that we can appreciate that they're both fantastic options for us, and that they're going to battle it out. I have a feeling that Smith Rowe may start on Wednesday, and we might mix it up a little bit, and Martinelli might come off the bench, but we'll have to wait and see. Lovely stuff. Let's scroll down and see what you guys are saying on Martinelli and and Smith Rowe. Zamir says, Smith Rowe for me. Zamir, it's good to have in the chat, mate. I haven't seen you in there for a while. It's good to have you back, son. Smith Rowe for me, better end product. Chris says, Martinelli sometimes just goes a little bit too fast. Still a bit raw, but sometimes you see his first touch or a skill and you realise he's filthy. Filthy. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Omar says, I've got the new contract lenses to watch some silky Arteta ball. Amos is absolutely buzzing about the win. Quick question. How much money are we going to get for Leno? And how much if we sell Tierney? Leno, I think you get around 10 to 15 million if you're lucky. Got a year left on his deal and he's not playing at all, so he's not got a chance to, up that. Tierney, I don't think he's going anywhere, and I think you'd be asking for easily over, around the 40 to 50 million pound figure if you were going to move him on. And I know a lot of people would say, what, 40 to 50 mil is worth way more than that. But he probably isn't in the market. It's just the way things go. It depends if a Premier League side came in for him. If a Premier League side came in for him, I think you'd be looking at more than that. Noel says, imagine us with a striker next season like Schick. We could be winning these games with 1 or 2 more goals, and I'm excited for it. No, I think that you raise an important point. However, what I think this does is I'm a little bit concerned about the striker position in the summer. The reason why I say that is because Lacazette seems so important to the way that we play and so key to the way that he drops into those half spaces, links up, the little one touches. Whoever we buy is going to have to do that. And whenever we're looking at possible strikers that we could be looking to sign, one of the big things that we need to start looking for in these players is their one touch and their link up play. Because it is so important to the way that Mikel Arteta wants this team to move, is that we've got players that can do what Lacazette is doing and more. The number 9 next season can't just be a number 9 that sits on the last man and, finishes off chances like Aubameyang. Like we can't have another Aubameyang. For all of his qualities, he is very much a play off the last defender, 6-yard box, 8-10 yard kind of area. That's where he thrives. And that can work, but I think that we've shown this season by the number of goals that we've scored. And by the way, we've now scored 25 goals in the 11 games since Aubameyang was dropped against Southampton. 25 goals compared to the 18 goals that we scored in the 14 matches that he was here for. And it shows you and that's not to a detriment of Aubameyang. And I think people very quickly kind of misconstrue that fact and that stat and think that's a big dig on Aubameyang, and it's not. The point of that is to prove how important it is to have a striker like Lacazette that does what he does. Because he's only scored, 4 Premier League goals this season, and 2 of them have been penalties. And yet we're scoring more goals with Lacazette in that role. So I think it's important to remember how key it will be in the summer to have a striker with those types of abilities. And that's certainly it. Iron Cub says Aubameyang got another goal for Barca. Absolutely. And this is the thing. In that team, in the way that Xavi's playing, Aubameyang's going to flourish. But we need to look at making sure that we get a striker in the summer that has that lacquer element to his game so we don't kind of drop off and lose that part of it. Arteta fan says, do you feel foolish for being Arteta out? Look, I'll tell you what, when we sat here after Villarreal, and I think I titled the show after Villarreal, Arteta should be sacked. And after that show, I don't think there was too much argument about it then. I think any other club at that time would have certainly turned around and said, I think you're going to have to go. We're finishing 8th in the league. We're losing to our former coach. I think Man United, Chelsea, any one of those clubs would have moved on from the coach. And after Manchester City, when we lost 5-0 and had lost the first 3 games, I think, again, the same scenario comes through. And that's why we did a video after that as well, in which I was very put out and very much frustrated and very much looking at a possible managerial change. But the great thing about what we do on this channel is that we open up the possibility to reflect on what we've previously thought and previously said to then change our minds based upon the evidence that's presented to us. So do I feel foolish? No, I don't feel foolish. I feel maybe a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? Quick to judge. Maybe I was not patient enough, and probably reflecting on those thoughts I had back then after Villarreal and after Manchester City. I certainly think that maybe I was too quick. And whilst I really liked what we did in the summer, I just wasn't seeing enough to convince me at that point that we were going in the right direction. And to be honest, after 2 8th place finishes and getting knocked out by Unai Emery and Villarreal, I don't think too many people can be blamed for wanting a change at that point. But certainly what we've seen this season is a drastic change, not only on the pitch, but we've seen a drastic change in the transfer market, in how the way we maturely navigate kind of certain decisions, how we've overhauled the squads, how we've got a clear style of play in the team. And I think if you look at all of the evidence that we've seen this season, it would take someone very, very stubborn to still be jumping into chat boxes and throwing Arteta out, that's for sure. I think you'd have to sit there. Look, if you're still on the fence about Arteta, that's fine, because the season's not done. The season's not over. But I certainly think it would be naive and a bit ignorant of what we've seen so far to still be sitting around and saying that we need to sack him or we need to change the coach. And I think that would come from more of a personal point of view, the more of a sit back, take a step and reflect on what's previously happened. So that's what I would say. So foolish? No, not foolish, but reflective and certainly maybe a little bit too quick to judge. But foolish, I think, maybe a little bit too far, because I think I've always spoken about the positives, but been reflective of the negatives as well. MAL says 2 8th place finishes in the past 2 seasons, so 8 divided by 2 is 4. Simple math. Love that. Who should we sign in the summer, says Theo? We're going to do plenty of transfer shows, Theo, and we will focus on transfers then. But right now, I think it's the time to focus on the great football that we've seen today. We've gone all this show, and we've not. I'm just going to time you out for just putting it in there. I think that there's a situation we find ourselves in where Thomas Partey has been so good this year that his performances weirdly kind of go under the radar. Do you know what I mean by that? Like his performances are so consistent and so good that he doesn't necessarily stand out, but he's so good at what he does that you can't ignore the presence of him in the midfield. And the reason why I chose the thumbnail that I chose for this show, which if you have clicked and just frivolously clicked the video before actually looking at a thumbnail, the thumbnail is the celebrations of Partey's goal, and he's celebrating with Granit Xhaka. And those two, I got the feeling when those two first kind of were paired together that it wasn't really a pairing that was necessarily clicking and working. But this season, where we've seen Thomas Partey have more opportunity to play more consistently, and alongside Xhaka as well, is those two have really flourished. And I think that the new role that Arteta has given to Xhaka, and then the freedom that he's given to Xhaka, and the extra responsibility that he's also given to Partey, has enabled both of them to improve. And one of the biggest things that critics of Arteta often say is, who has Arteta improved? And I think that you look at Xhaka the last 2 seasons. Last season, while we didn't have a good year, Xhaka was our best midfielder. This year, he's made mistakes. The red card against City, the red card against Liverpool. But he's had some absolutely brilliant performances. And Thomas Partey has improved this season. He's getting to the kind of levels that I expected from him when I saw what I saw at Atletico Madrid. And the thing about Arteta this season is that he is improving so many more of the players this year. And that's a really important part of proving a lot of people that Arteta is that person. So if you are someone who's on the fence about Arteta still, seeing that tangible improvement of players, that's something that should get you off the fence. And like many of us have already, jump onto the side of very much saying that he is the right person to lead us forwards and to push us to where we want to go. I'm going to be chatting with Mo tomorrow on the Arsenal Lounge, and I look forward to asking him whether he still thinks that Arteta isn't the person to take us back to the top. Because although we may still finish top 4, we might not this season, I still think there's so much evidence out there from this season alone and from what we've done in the market that actually makes you think, yeah, maybe a contract, it's worth getting that new contract. I know that we discussed this in January and we talked about, is it too soon to kind of ask for a contract? And we did that phone-in show. We had a lot of people on. We had a lot of diverse opinions about whether or not we should offer Arteta a new contract yet. And I said, I want to wait until the end of the season because I kind of want to sit and wait and see where we finish, because we could still finish. We could have an absolute awful end to the year. But there is a really strong argument that says letting him get down to a year maybe actually weakens our position. I'm really back and forth with this about offering him a new contract and whether or not we should still wait until the end of the season. I absolutely think if we miss out on top 4, it will be a huge disappointment. But I think there's so much evidence of the progress that we've made this season already that there is enough evidence to suggest that it wouldn't be a failure to not finish in the top 4. It would be a big disappointment. But I think there's so much positive to look at the moment at Arsenal, and that's really important. What we do like to do is we like to go onto the 538 website, just have a look at the prediction algorithms. Arsenal now have a 70% chance, according to 538, of finishing in the top 4 this season. Let me share my screen with you. For those that don't know anything about 538, they use prediction algorithms and, use looking at the fixtures that are coming up to kind of predict who might finish where. And it's been pretty accurate in previous seasons. And so far, Arsenal have a 70% chance of finishing in the top 4. Spurs have 15, despite losing to Man United, and Man United have 11. And what's obviously an even more important stat is looking at this beautiful thing, which is the Premier League table. And with 3 games in hand over Manchester United, we have a point over them and we sit in 4th. We've played 3 less games than West Ham, who sit 3 points behind us. We played 3 less games than Wolves, who currently sit 5 points behind us. And we've played one less game than Spurs, who sit 6 points behind us. And we play Liverpool on Wednesday, and I'm going to that game. So apologies, there won't be a reaction show in the evening on Wednesday because I'm going to be there, and I'm absolutely buzzing to get to that game. And I really want to know your thoughts in the last 10 minutes of this show as we look ahead and we look to the next game of what's coming up. I want to know how you're feeling about Liverpool. I want to know how you're feeling about that game, whether you think that Liverpool are just far, far too strong for us, or has the performances over the last 5 games, the 5 wins that we've seen in a row, given you kind of that added boost of confidence that maybe we can get something from that? Don't get me wrong, Liverpool are an absolute different animal to what we are, and they are far and away, in my opinion, they should win the league. I think they've dropped points in silly games, but I think they're better than City, in my opinion. I think they've got a better team than City, a better starting 11 than City. But I do think that, we've got a good chance to give them a really good game on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am looking forward to it. So let's see what you guys have to say. Noel says, Klopp has said there's plenty of positive cases in the Liverpool going into our next fixture. Have you heard? I've not heard that. Let me do a quick Twitter check. I've not heard that at all. So sorry, I can't confirm that information. I've not heard anything about that. But yeah, Jurgen Klopp has confirmed Liverpool have some players and staff missing through positive tests. Van Dijk, Thiago and Konate were not in training yesterday. Well, Van Dijk played against Brighton, so I assume he's back. So I don't know how many are going to be out, but I don't think that it's too many unless there's more. Paul says, Tom, has your view changed on who we should sign in the summer? I will tackle transfers. Don't worry, Paul. We'll get there. We're in March. We're going to get to transfers. Don't you worry. Tariq says, and by the way, check out Tariq's channel. He does some really good watch-alongs, and he's an absolute top member of our Discord server too. We should extend Arteta's contract ASAP, and if the worst-case scenario happens, there's always the option to sack him. I understand reluctancy to give players contracts because you can't just sack them. Yeah, I understand. There is a difference between the two. And there is that buffer, I suppose, still. Temi says, as long as we don't roll over for Liverpool, I'm comfortable regardless of the result. I'm comfortable with how I get what you're saying. As long as we aren't battered and we've put in a really good account of ourselves and we've shown the progress that we've hopefully made from Anfield, where we were battered. That was a really disappointing game at Anfield earlier in the season. There was a lot of expectation about the progression that we'd made and the performances that we were putting in. But I think there's a really good opportunity to get something from that game. I'm not predicting a win. I'm not saying that. But look, I think there's a really good discussion to be had. And of course, we will do a preview show on Tuesday. So make sure, if you are tuning in, there's 950 of you watching. Please drop a like on the video. We do these shows after the games. We do 8 a.m. shows every single morning UK time, keeping you up to date with all the latest Arsenal news. If you'd like to help support the channel as well, you can join a member and then get into our Discord server, which then lets you get actually onto the show, and you can even have your own thoughts and feelings heard in our preview series. Vladimir says, Tom, have you seen our fan base this united and behind the team? Honestly, can't remember the last time the energy and the positivity were this good behind our team. The last time I remember it being this good was kind of when we were on our cup runs and we were going towards those and we were back in the Champions League. And even then, the Arsene Wenger debate dominated much of the discussion. So it's definitely the best that I can remember it for a very long time. And if you're actually at the Emirates and you go to the games, which I know that only a privileged few are able to do because a lot of our listeners and viewers obviously are abroad, you can actually feel the difference in the stadium. You probably get it through the TV as well. And I think you can get it through the TV. But the difference in the stadium and the way that the games feel, and I can't wait to be there Wednesday because I can just sense that the electric atmosphere is hopefully going to carry Arsenal. And I want us to really go for Liverpool. I don't want us to sit back and absorb pressure only if we're kind of, in a position where we've got a chance of getting a result. But I really want to go for them and see what we can do. Patrick says, play 3 at the back against Liverpool, holding in Cedric and Nuno as wing-backs. Is there an argument maybe that Tierney, based upon his form and how he's playing at the moment, could go at left centre-back as well? But I know what you mean. Holding has been very good in those back threes. Absolutely. Vikler says, without the belief that we can get something, it's kind of pointless. I hope at least the squad has the belief, if not us. There's no Salah, says Mikey. We don't know whether he's going to be fit or not. He did come off injured. It didn't look too serious, but who knows? We'll have to see. Matt G says 2-2 is his prediction for the game. Glenn saying deja vu. I heard that one before. We absolutely have. And we put ourselves, Glenn, into these positions where we get this confidence up. We kind of get, in that feel of we got a real good chance, guys, to get the result, and then obviously it doesn't go our way. Zeus saying no chance against Liverpool. They are hugely motivated to chase Man City to the title. They absolutely are. But we're motivated to get top four. So who knows? Pranshal says Liverpool are winning non-stop. If we score first, we might have a chance, but Liverpool tend to score early. Zana says, think we will give them a game, but Barnes had the better of Cedric and Diaz will rip him apart, but have more hope in recent times. Cena says, I just want a performance like the one we had against Man City. I don't expect to win, but I'd like us to make a statement. Cena, I'm totally on board with what you're saying, and that's what I want to see. Is I want to see a statement performance. I want to see us really give something in a really good account of ourselves is what I want to see in these games. Absolutely, Tariq, you're doing some top work, man. Keep it up. John says the drubbings against the top teams need to be a thing of the past. Win, lose, or draw, we must make them work hard every time we play them. Thank you to Dol Quanain. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Thank you for the donation, mate. That's really, really kind of you. I'm sure you can pronounce it a really slick way that I'm just incapable of doing. Oliver White says, I'm an Arsenal supporter. Good time to pick to be one, Oliver. So congratulations to you. And I'll read out your question, Dol. Tom, who the closest guy who can play like Laka is Ollie Watkins for me. Interesting. I think there are a lot of other players that have Laka's link-up play and ability to score more goals. It's just going to be about who we go for. I also think we need someone who can press really well and has a lot of energy. Graham says, I just think they are still too strong for us, TC. Liverpool and Man City are at a level where I can't seriously predict that we will take points off them. I do think we will run them close, though. I hope that we just give them a ball. A game. That's what I want to see. Peter Charles says, ARTETABALL is so complete in every department when we pull it off. We will smash Liverpool. I love your positivity, mate. It's fantastic to see. Matthew De Souza says, if we were playing Man City, I could see us getting at them a bit like Spurs. Liverpool, even with a noisy Emirates, I don't see us getting at them. That being said, we've done okay against Liverpool at the Emirates of late. I know we lost in the semi-final of the League Cup, but I remember, was it not last season, the season before, but Nelson scored, Lacazette scored. We've drawn with them. I think Lacazette scored in a 1-1 draw that Van Dijk scored in. We've not had the worst results against them. It's just unfortunately that they're always so good. I mean, just having a look at Arsenal, Liverpool. I always remember the famous game where Ozil scored that goal to turn the record around. That was mental. Let's have a quick look at the records. The last time that we played each other, obviously we lost in the League Cup and drew in the League Cup. The last time we played them in the league, we lost 3-0 last season. Arsenal, that was in April of last year. I don't remember that game. Why don't I remember that game at all? I probably just tried to erase it from my memory is what I did. Jota got 2 and Salah got 1. I really don't remember that game. They scored in the 64th, 68th and 82nd minute. You see, I think it was one of those games where we're kind of holding them, and then as soon as they scored, we just collapsed. That certainly seems like what it was. But I don't remember that game. It's really kind of been scrubbed from my memory, probably for good reason. Chris says, I think the way Xhaka is playing more advanced will open us up a bit to more of the pain from Liverpool, and they will exploit that. Chris, there's no argument. I understand what you're saying, and I think that a few people raised this point. Afsar, I think, raised this in the points as well. But who's to say that he is going to play like that? We don't know. Like, he may play, it's different. We may prepare differently for this game. We're going to have to wait and see. Look, for my money, if we get 6 points from this game and Liverpool and Villa, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with getting those 6 points. I want a good performance. I don't want to get turned over. I don't want us to get absolutely trounced. But I would have taken 6 from 9 of the 3 games this week. I think that not many people would have been declaring to demand much more from that. And I would be content with seeing 6 points from 9, personally. Arteta fan saying we're going to make the Champions League semi-final next season. Wow, that is a very, very optimistic prediction, but I love the optimism. Riley says, if we play like we have in the last few games, bar Watford and Tomiyasu returns, we can get something for Liverpool. We can't get carried away here, though. Let's just give them a game. James says, what did you think of VAR today? Generally, it looked like a penalty on Saka, but not even checked. Yeah, look, I tweeted that. It was absolutely a stonewall penalty. Wasn't checked. In the Chelsea game, honestly, VAR is a mockery at this point. It's an absolute mockery. And it deserves to be scrapped, in my opinion. If you're not going to use it properly, what's the point of having it? There is no point of having it if you're not going to use it. whatsoever. We'll have to wait and see. Let's scroll up and see what you guys are saying. The last couple of comments before we wrap up. Edrastas says, getting 6 from 9 means we need to bounce back from Liverpool to beat Villa. Villa's going to be a really tough game. It's going to be a really, really difficult game, but we're going to have to wait and see. What's going on in the chat box? Is there little disruptions going on? Oh, we got some Spurs fans in here. They're really salty, aren't they? They're just obsessed, rent-free. We're just living rent-free in their heads. Anyway, I said I'd only go for half an hour, and we are going to wrap things up there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. There's over 950 of you watching still. That's amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. It means so much to me. If you could drop a like on the video, I really, really appreciate it. We do shows every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, and you can keep up to date with all the latest Arsenal news, preview shows, analysis of transfer targets going up until the end of the season. Members, always an absolute pleasure to see you in the chat box, and thank you for the support as always. Let's get a party time emoji spam in the chat just to finish things off. But it's been an absolute pleasure as always. I can't wait to speak to you in the morning to break this down even more and get more of your thoughts and feelings too. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I'll see you tomorrow. And as always, up the Arsenal.